to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody. I am joined alongside my good friend and co-host London Beth. And today on September 2nd, 2021, we will review the rest of the practice squad official signing. Yes, we hit on some of it yesterday, but there has been more additions that I'm probably sure most of you will be very excited about. Did Ryan Pace make the right moves on the 53-man roster? We'll jump into that in a few different areas where we think he made a few questionable decisions. And is Bryce Callahan coming back to the Chicago Bears? Rumors has it that the Bears have been calling the Denver Broncos. More to come there. But before we begin, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Stupid Car Tray.
Tired of your pizza topping sliding, office coffee distracting you while driving, grease and other stains getting on your seat, or you're just enjoying a game on the couch and don't want to lean over? Look no further than the Stupid Car Tray. Proudly USA made, Stupid Car Tray makes your passenger seat or couch a level surface for all transportation and couch potato needs. Visit www.stupidcartray.com and use discount code J16 to get 16% off your entire order. Link in the description.
Nick's Stupid Card Trays saved the day. Right now, if you buy one, you get one of their Classic Series ones for free. So, guys, make sure. It's a no-brainer. Buy one, get one. So make sure to head over to their website, use code JAY16. And, Nick, let's get into it. There's a ton of stuff going on. You got the Bryce Callahan stuff. I mean, I know you're psyched about this. So let's get into it.
Yes, so I was a big Bryce Callahan. Before we jump into Bryce Callahan, just full disclosure, I am a big Bryce Callahan fan. I think that he was a very big – I think it was a huge factor in that 2018 defense because think about it, Buster Screen never got the job done at nickel corner for us. Duke Shelley never got the job for us done at nickel corner. Who's the other guy that we had one more guy in there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but overall the Bears have struggled since with that second string cornerback position. Clinton Dix. How could you forget that name? Overall, the Bears struggled in that second cornerback position. I think that the Bears had it last year with Kyle Fuller and Jalen Johnson, but obviously Kyle Fuller no longer is in the team. Bring back Bryce Callahan on a good deal. We'll get into that in a second. But let's go to the official practice squad. As of today, there are 2 spots still open, so I'm just going to run through the list real fast. We have running back Ryan Null. We have running back Artavius Pierce. We have wide receiver Dazz Newsome. Dazz Newsome is back. I know a lot of people were very upset that he was not on the roster during our last episode. But Dazz Newsome is on this roster. Very excited to hear about that. Wide receiver Isaiah Coulter. We announced him. He was the 5th round pick from the Houston Texans that we picked up this offseason. He ended up making the practice squad for the Chicago Bears. John Bay Johnson, Justin Fields' favorite target, is on the practice squad. Center Dieter Easelin, who is a center. Obviously, we need center help behind Sam Mustipher if Sam Mustipher were to get injured or with COVID. So Dieter is back on the team. Guard Arlington Hambright, we drafted him last year in later rounds, had him on the roster last year. He is on the practice squad this year. And then we have Uzuna Alufahai. Again, I got that right. I looked up, spelled it out. London can even say I even spelled it out so I could pronounce it. He is from the Houston Texans. We claimed him after he cleared waivers from the Houston Texans. He is a nose tackle. Then we have outside linebacker Charles Snowden, outside linebacker Sam Kamara, center back Thomas Graham Jr., safety Tez Tabor. Yeah, just keep grabbing London because this is all good stuff. And then kicker Brian Johnson. So there are 13 guys on the practice squad as of right now, but according to Brad Briggs, this leaves 2 spots open on the practice squad. We could see Rodney Adams come back. I know a lot of people were very upset that Rodney Adams was on the 53-man roster, then ended up getting waived. All roster moves are fair, folks. You never know. He still is an available free agent right now. Rodney Adams could come back to the practice squad. So stay tuned for that. But London, do you think that this is one of the better practice squads that the Bears had? I know people are like, why do we care about the practice squad? Because of depth. Because of the fact that COVID is a thing this season. Players will be put on the injured/COVID list, and people will get called up. I think that this practice squad provides a lot of depth for the Chicago Bears. And in regards to any injuries or, players not working out, London, who do you see coming up first for the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, out of all these practice players on this list here, Nick, first and foremost, I mean, Bears Twitter tweaked out. They just tweaked out over Dazz Newsome, over Charles Snowden, even Sam Kamara, and just Thomas Graham Jr., and just to name a few players. So, listen, these guys are practice squad players, and they're there for a reason. Either, like Dazz Newsome, they had injuries to start their NFL career, or they just are still taking time to get up to the NFL speed, such as like Thomas Graham Jr. In regards to are they the best unit? I think that's really going to determine on the play and the progress actually of Charles Snowden. I think that if he continues to produce as an undrafted free agent and kind of can step into possibly taking over for, Robert Quinn in a year or two, that will then determine the ranking of if this practice squad is very good. And I'm going to put it almost all on his shoulders. He has that potential. He has that ability. He does need to bulk up though. And he does need to put some weight on and get away, and not just use a speed rush on the outside to get to the quarterback or stop the running back, because there were a few times that he just got absolutely blown up and just got pushed back from offensive linemen when they were pulling, running the ball, so on and so forth. So I enjoy this practice squad. I would say the first one to come up, if we had to pick one, I think is going to be Thomas Graham Jr., and that's only because our cornerbacks are just not
very thin.
Now. I mean, I think we have like 7 active linebackers on the roster, so I don't exactly know unless injuries happen. If I see Charles Snowden touching the field this season, Thomas Graham Jr., and I would say, A2 would maybe be Dazz Newsome, but Thomas Graham Jr. is the one that I think is going to be the one that will touch the field this season. And it's just because of depth.
I totally agree with that. I think that, the Bears might not even make a move. We don't know that for sure yet, that the Bears are going to make a move at cornerback in regards to that. So I think you could see Thomas Graham Jr. coming up. He is right there in regards to playing in the NFL. He definitely, obviously, is able to make an NFL team. Was he able to make the 53-man roster? No, but he is on the practice squad and can get called up at any time for the Chicago Bears. But more to come on that. I still think that the Bears, and there still is 2 spots available. I think the Bears are going to end up picking back up Rodney Adams, but more to come on that. So London, number 2 topic that I want to hit on with Ryan Pace has been getting a lot of heat. Why? I don't know. And it's because of practice squad players. Everyone's like, why would he get rid of Dazz Newsome? Why would he get rid of Rodney Adams? It's not like he got rid of Khalil Mack. It's not like he got rid of Roquan Smith. I can't wrap my head around the fact that these are hype players. And I'm going to get into this in a little bit. But a lot of this, like, everyone's just hyped about these guys because they made a few good plays during the offseason. It matters in the game. That's all I got to say to that. So, like, do you think Ryan Pace made the right moves? Well, I'm going to get more into that in a sec. But let's go over 3 key areas where Ryan Pace, a lot of question marks from fans, a lot of question marks from reporters. Obviously, the first one to start, inside linebacker. 7 on the roster. Danny Trevathan, Roquan Smith, Alec Ogletree, Christian Jones, Joel Iyebuniwe. I got it. Thank you. Caleb Johnson and Josh Woods. Danny Trevathan's out for the first 3 weeks, so that makes sense in regards to having a lot on the roster then, because he's going to be off the roster. But then Josh Woods is likely just for special teams, along with Caleb Johnson. And then Iyebuniwe is a strong special teams player. Well, a strong depth player, can come on the field, do what he has to do. But overall, like, 7 inside linebackers. That's a lot. And obviously you need big guys on special teams too, because you can't just throw a bunch of wide receivers out there. You're going to get bulldozed over by their lower string tight ends or lower string linebackers on the other side of the ball. So overall, when you see 7 inside linebackers, London, was this a good move by Ryan Pace or was this a questionable move?
I think it was a good move, and I think it had a lot to do with the special teams, like you said. Danny T being out for the first 3 weeks is definitely a loss. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's on the back end of his career. He's, past 30, all this other kinds of stuff. He still had a really good preseason, a really good training camp. He had that interception against the Buffalo Bills the Titans, in the goal line, which is something that, here in the red zone, which is something that he has been definitely known for, not only a secure tackler, but, he does pick a lot of balls off throughout his career, even when he was at the Denver Broncos. Of course, Roquan Smith, he's a Pro Bowler. He is the best middle linebacker in the NFL and the most overlooked player in the NFL. Everybody knows it. And then if Alec Ogletree is a great veteran that's going to come in at the age of 28, 29 years old and play a couple, games due to Danny T being out. The rest of the guys, all depth. I do agree with you. Josh Woods, Caleb Jones, they will most likely be a special teams players, but you have to think about it like this. On your special teams unit, do you want to have, on your punt return or your kickoff, do you want to have wide receivers running down there? or do you want to have at least backup linebackers running down there? I think that these guys did enough to make the squad, and that's why they're on here. And so I'm not against this. I mean, we had like 9 tight ends like a year ago. So like it's just not a big thing to me. I'd rather have linebacker depth because injuries happen in the NFL.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, I mean, guys like Dazz Newsome would get absolutely ran over by other teams' linebackers, running full speed. So I think that definitely is the right move. Let's go to the tight end group. 5 tight ends on the Chicago Bears roster. I think that this has to do with another special teams, but let's go through them really fast. Cole Kmet, Jimmy Graham, Jesse James, JP Holtz, and Jesper Horsted. Horsted for sure deserved a roster spot. JP Holtz, big question mark in my eyes. This is the best tight end group, by the way, that we've had in ages for the Chicago Bears. I think, though, you could swap out Jesper Holstead and JB Holtz with a practice squad player like Dazz Newsome. I'm really aiming at JP Holtz here. Jesper Holstead definitely deserves to be on the roster in case someone gets hurt in the tight end room. But I think we have too many. In my opinion, I think 5 is way too many tight ends. Cole Kmet, Jimmy Graham, Jesse James would have been just fine themselves. But then Jesper Horsted, I see him being on special teams and depending on the package. But also JP Holtz, I don't see him anywhere else but special teams. So London, I think it's a little excessive. Do you think that Ryan Pace hit the nail on the head again in regards to special teams with these guys?
I think with the top 3 guys for the tight end positions, Cole Kmet, I mean, he's been a little banged up, which is kind of making me a little nervous. Of course, Jimmy Graham, great, red zone threat. And then Jesse James was an absolute steal out of the free agency from the Pittsburgh Steelers. After that, yeah, I think JP Holtz and Jesper are definitely special teams players unless injuries happen. And I know everybody's like, oh man, we got 5 tight ends on our roster, so on and so forth. Look what just happened to the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, they released Kyle Rudolph, who was their long-standing tight end, number 1 tight end on their team, because Irv Smith Jr. was the guy that they drafted from Alabama. Okay, he just got injured. He's going to be out for a significant amount of time. The rookie that they drafted, Davidson, he was like kind of like an Adam Shaheen kind of player, where he's like a D2, D3 like stud. He's had a really bad training camp and a really bad preseason, and so they had to go out and trade for a tight end because their tight end went from good to literally just absolutely no one. So I think they're a little bit worried about that. I mean, we used to have 9 or 10 tight ends on the roster like a year or 2 ago. So we're down to 5. At least we're getting, at least we're cutting it down a little bit in my eyes. And if Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham stay healthy, I think the rest of the guys won't touch the field very much. And that's what I expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that statement as well. So, but you got to admit, this is a very strong tight end group as a whole. I mean, like Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet alone make a strong group. Jesse James and Jesper Horsted just add that needed depth that we always talk about. Depth is key for the Chicago Bears, especially this upcoming season, and any NFL team in regards to if someone has to sit out because of COVID, if someone gets hurt, anything like that. Big things in regards to the tight end group. Very excited about it. I think that they could have been one more shorter, but Ryan Pace, usually things are working out pretty well for him, and it's just Matt Nagy not making the right call. So let's go to the wide receiver group really fast. Yes, people are upset about Rodney Adams and Dazz Newsome not being on the 53-man roster. Well, you got one of them on the practice squad and potentially the other one coming to the practice squad as well. I just want to bring this up because I think people are below it, like seeing too much hype from certain people on Twitter and just be like, oh, that I want to sound, like that's who I want too. I want Rodney Adams on the roster. Rodney Adams had that one cool touchdown reception against the Bills. It's about it. And at least in a game is what I'm saying. But the Bears have so much young yet experienced veterans on this roster. Let's go through that really fast. Allen Robinson, 8 years pro, still in his 20s. Marquise Goodwin, 8 years pro, still in his 20s. Rashad Perriman, who we just picked up from the Detroit Lions, 7 years pro, fast, big, tall, experienced. Damiere Byrd, 6 years pro, fast, deep ball threat. Darnell Mooney, 2 years, but we've proven that he's a beast, absolutely. And Nasimba Webster, 3 years pro, but he's going to be a punt return, kick returner. So we have 6 wide receivers on the active roster right now. They could still be on the practice squad, Rodney Adams and Dazz Newsome, and still have even John Vay Johnson have an impact for this team eventually. Someone might get hurt. Someone might get called up for special teams. There will be an impact. Who are Dazz Newsome and Rodney Adams better than? I'm asking you, London, and exclude Webster.
out of the 5, so Robinson, Goodwin, Perriman, Bird, and Mooney, who are Adams and Dazz Newsome better than? I have to ask. I'm saying Bird, maybe. But, like, who else would they be better than?
Yeah, Nick, I'm not even going to put Bird on that list as a maybe. I mean, he was a starter for the Patriots, the past 2 years, and was a special teams player for them, but also a starting wide receiver for them. Listen, the whole hype around Rodney Adams, okay, it was a great story. He's been on our practice squad. He's worked his way up. Everybody wanted to give him a shot. I think because, and I'm just going to I sat back and I thought about it, and I think this is just the Justin Fields effect, because we have like a dynamic quarterback. And so everybody is just overhyping every single little aspect of the Chicago Bears on Twitter and absolutely losing their minds. Rodney Adams is not a starting wide receiver in the NFL, period.
No.
And I know probably in the comment section, I'm going to take a lot of heat for that. And I know people were all hyped up about it, and everybody was freaking out that he got cut. He is not a 53-man roster wide receiver in the NFL. He just isn't. And I'm sorry to say it. I honestly, out of him and Dazz Newsome, I'm taking Dazz Newsome. I think that if that injury didn't happen, Dazz Newsome would be on this 53-man roster, but I think they're just letting him rehab and taking it a little slower because they drafted him and they still have that ability to take that slow time with. So overall, none of them. I mean, I honestly think Webster is actually still more of a value on a 53-man roster because of his kick and punt returning abilities on this team. And that's just that's just the harsh reality. And it's just Bears Twitter, man, you guys gotta just slow down. I mean, it's Rodney Adams. Like, he's not gonna make the roster of any NFL team. And he was cut by the Falcons. Yeah, like in all reality, he is a practice squad player. Like, it is what it is. He was a great story. I was happy that he had a great, training camp and preseason. But he is what he is. Okay, he just is what he is.
And I want you to eat your words. I want him to succeed.
Exactly.
But right now, at this point in time, he is not the impactful player. And I didn't mean to cut you off, London, but he is not the player. Like, he is not Allen Robinson. Everyone's acting like he's Allen Robinson, and it blows my mind. And I totally agree. The Justin Fields effect. Like, everyone just take a step back because one person said, "Oh, they should start Justin Fields." I saw a really, you know what, we're going to go a little off script here. I saw something really good today from CBS Sports. And David Carr, who works for CBS Sports, he was the first overall pick back in 2003 for the Houston Texans. A lot of hype around him. He was the first overall pick, a quarterback. He was sacked 76 times in his rookie season. NFL record, still no one has come close to that record, even bad Bears offensive lines. He was like, don't throw Fields out there. Do not. Let Andy Dalton take the hits. Let this offensive line get better. Why would you put Justin Fields out there? That's what we've been saying it all along. You've been saying it. I've been saying it. I've been agreeing with you. Let Andy Dalton take the hits, folks. And everyone's gonna be like, Justin Fields could use his feet better. Okay, great. Do you want to be running for his life every single time, potentially throw interceptions, potentially lose confidence in the NFL? No. Slow. I just, his hype trains of certain players need to slow down. The Bears have a very, very good wide receiver group, probably one of the better ones in the last couple of years. And since probably 2013, to be honest, with Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall, I really think that this is a better group. So just pump the brakes there. So London, thank you for going in more.
Yeah, no problem, Nick. I mean, it's all the blue check marks and the just hype, like the clickbait hype dudes on Twitter. You need to just chill. Like, you just need to chill.
Absolutely. And then finally, let's go into what the thumbnail's all about. Bryce Callahan could come back to the Chicago Bears. According to Brad Spielberger of PPF, the Chicago Bears have called the Denver Broncos in regards to nickel corner Bryce Callahan. Bryce Callahan played for the Chicago Bears from 2015 to 2018. He was a strong nickel corner for them and is very familiar with the defense. Obviously, he plays for Vic Fangio right now. Sean Desai runs a very similar defense over here in Chicago. So here's the thing that concerns a lot of people, and I agree with this, is that injury bugs. He's missed 25 games over the last 3 seasons. Out of, quick math, 48 games, he's missed more than half the games. But that could help the Chicago Bears out because he's owed $6.4 million over the next year in cap space. And also, he $6.4 million in cap space, and we can get him for a cheaper value. So overall, I think that the Bears got rid of a lot of contracts. So the Bears could have the cap, or they could restructure Jimmy Graham's contract. So it's a signing bonus to get the cap to bring in Bryce Callahan. London, do you want Bryce Callahan back on the Chicago Bears over Kyle Fuller, or do you want Kyle Fuller over Bryce Callahan?
Either one of them. We need quarterback depth really, really bad and quickly since we have the Rams coming up and they have some pretty good wide receivers, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, just to name two of them. And so I think, just to answer your question before we get into the next thing, I think either player, I don't care the past. I don't care if they were let go. I really don't care. We need cornerback play and cornerback depth on this team for us to be successful in a pass-heavy NFL into the 2021-2022 season.
And it just makes sense because they're familiar with the defense. They're familiar with the stadium. They're familiar with the weather in Chicago. Overall, they just know. And it's not like they've been playing it much different, Denver, Colorado. Like, it gets cold there too. So and final question in regards to that now, either or. Obviously, two different players. I think Fuller is definitely worth more than Callahan at the moment. Obviously, $9 million compared to I think $6.1 or $6.5 million. I think I just said. Overall, what are you giving up for either player, London? You can break them down either or. I'm giving up the same for either player, but I want you to go first.
Yeah, I'm giving the same up for both players. I would give up a 6th-round pick and a player kind of like Demarius Byrd in that area. That's just the value of it.
Demir Byrd.
Yeah, Demir. Oh God, I'm sorry. Demir Byrd. I'm giving up like Demir Byrd, just that kind of level of player where it's, probably a fourth string player on a team, possibly a wide receiver or a depth position, and then a 6th-round pick. That I think in today's NFL, a lot of people are like, oh, we can get rid of this player. We can get rid of this player. I saw Nick Foles straight up. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, period. Teams are going to want speed or they're going to want some sort of depth in their skill positions for a player, for either one of either Bryce Callahan or Kyle Fuller. So that's kind of where I would be. I would go as high as saying like maybe Brashad Perryman, put him in there too. Something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Bears could easily send a 4th or a 5th. I know I tweeted earlier a 3rd, and then I said a 3rd in Artie Burns, and I started to think about it. I'm like, that's giving up a lot. I mean, like Artie Burns, not as much, but like a 3rd, obviously that's a lot. So if I were the Bears, I would do max 4th pick, min 6th pick. And I would throw in Bird. I could see them throwing in even Jimmy Graham somehow. I mean, I don't know if Denver would want to take an aging veteran like that, but he does have a 1-year contract, just like Kyle Fuller and Bryce Callahan. So and similar cap hit. So it would definitely be interesting. I would probably say, I'm just going to go in the middle, 5th-round pick, and then a player, probably Bird or someone like that. So it could help Denver out, especially in regards to their quarterback situation if we did send Nick Foles. But it's not like Nick Foles is much better than Teddy Bridgewater, if he is even better than Teddy Bridgewater. So it would be an interesting trade for sure. You have to consider the fact that the cap for sure for both sides of the ball. So could be interesting. I mean, we could wake up tomorrow or we could post this and we find out that, hey, like, I just checked to make sure
that's been happening to us a lot lately. We've been posting videos and then we were like, pre-video we talk about like, oh, Dazz Newsome might be coming back, or Rodney Adams, or all these other players, and then we post the video and then like 10 minutes later it's like, oh, this did happen. We're like, we should have just said it.
It happens though. So overall, great news to hear that Bryce Callahan or Kyle Fuller, it's likely Bryce Callahan would come back to the Chicago Bears, but overall, great news today for Chicago Bears news otherwise. So I hope everyone's happy about Dazz Newsome. And again, take a deep breath. It's not Allen Robinson. You're not losing, Justin Fields or Khalil Mack or anyone like that. So overall, good to hear. But with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, joined alongside my co-host and good friend London Beth, and we will see you guys next time.